calls out the Ravens coaching staff and organization, and the Steelers have brand new uniforms. That and so much more on this episode of the Purple Rain podcast. Yes, welcome back to episode 322 of the Purple Rain podcast. Jimmy Smith episode, Dwayne Stark, Samari Roll, and most recently, the King himself, Derrick Henry episode of the Purple Rain podcast. Thank you for coming through to this Monday evening edition of the Purple Rain podcast. Not a whole lot of news to talk about because come next episode, we'll have training camp to talk about. We'll be overreacting about probably Teddy Buchanan, Odafe Owe, LeJontay Wester. Will be overreacting. I know I will be. So thank you for coming through this episode of Purple Rain Podcast 322. You can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast. This guy right above me on Instagram or on X at SuttonDef. Me, Instagram, SimplyAS10.prod, or on X at SimplyAS10. And most importantly, our sponsor, Manscaped. Go on there, use code PRP for 20% off your whole order and free international shipping. The best deal on the internet. Sutton, the weekend is over and it is the week of Ravens training camp. I know you are happy. I'm kind of getting excited, not going to lie. Hopefully it stays, hopefully we stay healthy. Don't pull what the Lions are doing right now. Don't want to talk about all that. But how are you feeling right now?
Feeling good, man. Like you said, I mean, we are quickly closing in on NFL season being right back here in our laps, and I just can't wait. I think we have 6 Sundays left or something like that, 6 or 7 Sundays until regular season football starts. So I mean, that's super exciting. I'm super pumped for that, and I don't want to get into the whole this is our year thing, what
Yeah.
Ravens fans tend to do, what we've been doing the past couple of seasons, even subconsciously, even. But I just want to come into the season with tempered expectations, just have a lot of fun with it. I know it's going to be a fun season regardless of anything else, and that's kind of the beauty of having a Lamar Jackson at quarterback, because you're just going to have fun. You're going to have fun watching him play on Sundays, and I'm looking forward to that the most. Of course, hope we win a Super Bowl, and as we're closing in on the season beginning, those are still my aspirations 100%, but I'm just more excited than anything to see our boys back on the field, back on the gridiron, and playing the good old game of football that we love, the American football. Let's see. So, see what we have here in the chat so far. Let me see. We've got Mod K Dog, that is, of course, giving a shout out to the hashtag replay game. That's right. If you're not watching this episode 322 of the Purple Rain Podcast live, you're part of the hashtag replay gang. Thank you so much for coming through to this episode. We appreciate you as always. Let me see. We also have Garnett West in the building. Says, fellas, what's going on, Garnett? Appreciate you for coming through. Yeah, Lisa Ann is in the building as well. Shout out to her. She just had a birthday that passed. Happy belated birthday again to her. We got Chie in the house. Chie says, I'm excited. I've got all my NFL jerseys. Also, my diploma has arrived in the mail, and school is officially done. Going to be a fun season, but I want a Super Bowl no more than ever. Congratulations, Chike, again. If you didn't do it when you originally got it, yeah, definitely frame it. Definitely frame it. Congratulations, brother. That's a huge accomplishment, and you should be very, very proud of yourself, for sure. For sure. Let me see. Yeah, Super Bowl aspirations. We all want one. We all want one. I know we're itching for it, but again, man, just go into the season wanting to have some fun watching the boys play. You'll have the best enjoyment, the entertainment experience, if you just go in with expectations that you just want to have fun with this season. That's what I'm doing. I'm sure Alex probably feels the same. We've got Boz in here. Mod Boz in the chat says, yo, what's going on, Boz? Long time no see.
Francis.
Yeah, definitely some things to catch up on, Boz. Let us know the state of your Steelers. We definitely are going to get into those Unis that they just dropped earlier. Not sure how you're feeling about them, Boz, but we will touch on that a little bit later on in the episode. We got the Chef 87 in here. Says, good evening, Rain Gang. What's going on, Chef?
Good evening.
Appreciate you for pulling up, popping out, coming through to this episode 322 of PRP. Before we get into anything Ravens related, really quick, Alex, I want to ask you, did you watch the fights this past weekend, right?
I did. I lost a good amount of money, and my heart is broken. Heart is broken, not gonna lie.
I can see why. I can definitely see why. I mean, Kevin Holland, I know that's your guy, and he had a tough showing at UFC 318 against Daniel Rodriguez. It was a good fight. It was definitely one of the better, more entertaining fights of the night. But well, somebody put it best on Twitter the other day after that fight. Said Kevin Holland's probably one of the most frustrating guys to be a fan of, in the UFC because of just sometimes the way his fights play out. But what were you thinking as you were watching that fight live, Alex?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I want to say I am proud of him for like fighting back because there was a moment where I'm like, all right, it's over. You're gonna get knocked out, but he did fight back, and I was proud of that. But what I wasn't proud about was those flying knees. With all due respect, what were you doing there?
Yeah.
You're wasting too much energy for nothing. Um, and I feel like Rodriguez's camp was smart because his last two wins, I think, were a submission. So he defended the submission well, and that's what Holland was going for. And when he knocked him down, like, go for the kill. He didn't have it in him, but it really hurt. And that's the problem with him. He was left off all my slips. Minus 650 favorite for him. You can't trust him as a fan of him. Like, I can't go into a fight saying he's going to win this because I know him. So for now on, if don't bet on Kevin Holland. Money line, bet on him maybe to like to win by submission or something, but it's just not worth it to throw him in your slip for those odds.
Yeah, definitely not. When I was watching that fight, I was just in awe of honestly, how bad Daniel Rodriguez really looked in that, and how he was just there to be had. You know what I mean? Like just any. I mean, I guess Kevin Holland was exhausted by the time that he actually hurt Daniel Rodriguez, and he dropped him because he dropped him with like a little short, like jab with like barely anything on it. It just landed like right on the nose. Daniel Rodriguez was really hurt, but Kevin Holland, he just did not have enough in the gas tank to like really finish there. You know what I mean? So Daniel Rodriguez ended up getting control of Holland and ended up on top, and that's how the fight ended. And maybe this is one of those things where Kevin Holland has to take a step back and say, "Hey, look, maybe we should not fight 5 weeks, 6 weeks apart. Maybe we should give ourselves a little bit more time to, rest, recover, recuperate, so that way we can come out and we can be our best selves. Because if you're gassed like that, the end 3 round fight to the point where you can't even finish a guy that you clearly have massively hurt, that's a problem. That's an issue. I don't care what weight class you're at. So hopefully Kevin Holland gets it together. But great night of fights. Dustin Poirier did take the L to Max Holloway. I predicted Dustin would win, but I think that maybe just with all of the emotions of it being his last fight, it being in his hometown, everything leading up to it, like mentally, I think it was a little much because he looked a little bit gun shy to me for most of the fight. And Max Holloway was really just kind of teeing off in certain spots on him. So big shout out to Max Holloway. Always been one of my favorite fighters. Cannot wait to see what he does next. But what did you think about that main event?
That damn guillotine in the second round. I thought it was a moment. I thought it was gonna happen. I was actually sitting in bed and I sat up. I was like, "Is this gonna happen?" But time ran out. It was an entertaining fight, and like you said, I think the emotions did get the best of him because Dustin didn't look like he did that to me. I thought his last fight, but it was still good to see. Happy for him to go out on his terms, and not just lose in really embarrassing fashion. Just call it like going out on your terms is really respectable. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, definitely happy for him. A very, very storied career. Had a bunch of rivalries. Rivalry with Max Holloway, obviously rivalry with Conor McGregor, with not Dustin Poirier, but Justin Gaethje. Lots of guys. He fought the best of the best. Islam Makhachev. He fought Khabib Nurmagomedov. He fought everyone, man. He fought everyone. So big shout out to Dustin Poirier. He definitely deserves all of his flowers. 100%. All right, so let's go ahead and
Real quick
move
though,
along here to.
last thing about
Yeah, go ahead.
UFC, I'm happy Paulo
Sure.
Costa won. Because I remember when I first got in UFC, I
Mm,
was watching, like, it seemed like he was always fighting. And he was, I'm like, oh, this guy's freaking built. And I was kind of upset he lost a couple, but I'm happy he won that. Got, call out afterwards. Don't think it was the smartest idea, but that's not for me to say. But I'm happy he won. I thought it was disrespectful him being an underdog, not going to lie. He was on my slip
mm.
that Poirier unfortunately did so, but I'm happy he won.
Yeah, definitely happy for Paulo Costa. I remember those early days of him fighting in the UFC, or when he first really got popular in the UFC. That was around like the COVID days, like 2020, 2021. He was fighting a lot, and that's when they really called him the Eraser, because he was just really brutalizing guys, and it looked bad. But he looked really good against Roman Kopylov on Saturday night, and can't wait to see what he does next. I mean, like you said, the call out that he had over Shemaev, that might be, I don't know how that one would go for him. I can't wait to see what Hamzat and Drykes do in their fight that's coming up next month. But man, shout out to Paulo Costa for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But all right, let's go ahead and into our Purple Rain report here. So again, there was some news about Marcus Williams. He went on a podcast. I believe it was Teron Armstead's podcast, and they were talking about basically what went wrong with the Ravens. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right. Here we have the clip. It is a pretty lengthy clip, so I don't want to play quite all of it. But we'll just go ahead and play it from the beginning here and see where we get to, how much information we really need from it.
To be frank, I just think it was just a lot of miscommunication from the top down. There's a lot of stuff on my side that I could have done better. Of course, I take accountability for whatever action that I did that they didn't like, but I didn't know what actions those were. But I take accountability for maybe missed opportunities, maybe missed plays that I could have done better on. But as far as the communication from the top down, I feel like it could have been better. They could have communicated properly and effectively so that there was no miscommunication when the switch was going to occur. I mean, I played football for a long time. You don't just get bad overnight. Um, and most people on the outside will believe that plays that were given up may have been on me, but they don't really know the depths of the coverage or what we were actually running, what we were told. They don't really know. But as a safety, my responsibility is to do whatever I can to show up in the screen and maybe possibly make a play. I never throw anybody under the bus. I just try to, just try to keep it cool, and hopefully when you go in the meeting room, the coach address it. And unfortunately, like when things happened last year, it wasn't addressed in that magnitude. So it all just ultimately somebody had to take the fall because the media's looking at it, the fans are looking at it, and somebody has to take the fall for what's going on. And even though it may not be my fault, I'm not going to come out and say, "Hey, this is such and such person." So for me, I wrote on my board like every year, every week, I write on the board my goals, and I just said never lose my peace. Like nobody.
All right. So Alex, we get the gist of what Marcus Williams is saying there. Basically in a nutshell, he's saying that, somebody had to take the blame for the defense being that bad for the first half of the season. And he's saying from the top down, which I would assume to mean, the coaches should have been a lot more communicative with him and, with the rest of the team. So that way there weren't some of these like blunders and just complete breakdowns where guys were just running right by him for touchdowns and things like that, i.e. the Bengals games. So Alex, what do you really take from, and I want the chat's opinion as well. Chat, definitely let us know, what is your take on Mark Williams really saying all of this post, being a Raven? He's no longer a Raven, obviously, but Alex, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and I respect him for not throwing anybody under the bus. That was nice and all, but you have to accept some of the blame because once you were taken out of the lineup, we completely turned around. And I do understand that we didn't play nearly the type of offense we were playing before. We didn't play the Bengals, after we switched the safeties out. But I want to say, let me preface this. I was happy that when we signed him, I was over the moon with Marcus Williams. I thought his first year was unbelievable. I thought even when he, tore his pec, he was still playing above average football for his safety with one arm. He was making plays. He was, batting balls. How he even had a pick against the Niners on Christmas with a torn pec. So, but going back to this now, it just, something was going on behind the scenes. I mean, we'll talk about that later, but he wasn't the only one. We switched out Trenton Simpson as well. We had Chris Boardham, Lee Harrison switching out next to Roquan Smith. Like, you weren't the only one. When your defense is last in the league, you have to make a change. And you're $70 million. We're looking at somebody. And when you're giving up, 400 yards a game passing, you got to look at the safeties. It wasn't Kyle Hamilton, blowing coverage. He was what we had to do. It wasn't, most DBs getting burnt. It was, in the back end. So unfortunately, he had to go. And I still don't think there's a coincidence that when you're out, stuff changes. But who knows? There's something deeper to the story. And we'll get into that. But that's kind of what I have. I'm not going to try to throw dirt on him. I appreciate what he did. He wasn't a diva about getting benched. He could have easily done that. You're making a lot of money. And you're not playing snaps. You're on the sideline. You're inactive, or you're just sitting there in the cold. I respect him for that, not going out like Deontay Johnson. Oh, I think you're muted.
Shoot, my bad.
There we go.
No, I agree with you, Alex, and I definitely want to start off my sentiment by shooting him some bail as well in this one because, you know, he didn't throw anybody under the bus, but he did say from the top down, he was just honest about his experience. You know, from the top down, with a first-year defensive coordinator in Zach Ord, things weren't necessarily how it's supposed to. Like they weren't all hashed out from the get-go, and that's what you have to expect. There are going to be some growing pains. Any defense, even with a franchise like the Baltimore Ravens that has such a storybook history, that's predicated around being a defensive, dominant team. You know what I mean? Like even with them, if you're switching coordinators, it's going to take an adjustment process in order for things to really get to where they need to be. So, and I think it also speaks to how well he played even with one arm. When his, like you said before, when he first came to the Ravens, he was playing really well. Had an interception in his very first game, if I remember correctly. The guy was good. You know what I mean? And like he says, he's been playing football this whole. You don't just get bad overnight. I can see how there was some miscommunications on the back end of that defense early on in the season. Of course, like you mentioned as well, and I think it was a really good point that I didn't see anybody else bring up today. The guy was making $70 million, so we had to point the finger at somebody. Now, you mentioned something to me before we went live, and I see Garnett has also put it in chat here. He also put in the chat just a few minutes ago. I want to bring it up and have you kind of speak to that. Garnett says here, Marcus Williams had a great relationship with the previous coaches, but had a bad relationship with Doug Mallerie. Also, the long-term secondary coach left for some unique reasons. Yeah, Alex, you mentioned that to me before we went live, and I didn't know that. Talk to me a little bit about where you got that from and how you felt that.
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter. I saw Cole Jackson put it out there, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's true or it's not true, but he's been right a lot more than he's been wrong. So let's take it like that.
Right.
And when you look at, like you said, where there's smoke, there's fire. When you look at Marcus Williams, getting benched, when you look at Doug Mallerie no longer being with the Ravens, look at how long the Ravens have had one of some coaches that, were questionable. I'm not going to name names, but we know who I'm talking about first and foremost, and, even other positions. We had a coach, for Pete's sake, whose receiving core didn't have a touchdown all year in 2014 when he was with the Chiefs. Not going to name names once again. But we, have a pretty long leash with coaches. Nobody else thinks it's kind of suspicious. This guy was a one and done. That's not really Raven-like when it comes to coaches, it feels like, unless they go somewhere else and get a better offer. So now you have your $70 million safety benched, and Garnett brings it up. You have Dean Pease come in and help out. You have a first-year defensive coordinator. Then you have just a plethora of coaches now leave after that year. Something's fishy. So I think they kind of just accepted that their hirings on the defensive back end were not the best. Now you have Chuck Pagano in. You bring in the guy from Georgia Tech, guy from the Chiefs, kind of revamp that. None of the coaches changed. Defensive line. Chuck Smith is still here. Those guys are here. Linebackers coach switch. It's like that back end just all changed. So I think they kind of accepted that that's where the problem was in this defense, trying to switch it out. So I would love to know, what happened between him and the Doug Mallerie. I doubt we ever know, but it's definitely something to think about when watching this and when analyzing what he's saying.
Yeah, definitely a good point there. And you said Cole is a guy who, again, has been right more as wrong, like you said before. So I do, of course, we take it with a grain of salt, but I do think there's some truth to what he's saying there. But in the end, let me see. I think I also saw my guy Dre in here. It says, Lowkey, I'm not mad at Marcus Williams' response, even though he didn't full on take accountability. A lot was him, and I can believe some of it was coaching. Yeah, man, it's just one of those unfortunate situations. I still think Mark Williams is a good player. I think he will bounce back. But it's just, and like you mentioned, I think the Ravens just realized that their hires on the defensive back end just wasn't what it was supposed to be. And unfortunately, when there's struggles that happen on the field, it's a lot easier to take a look at who's executing the plays on the field, right? It's the same reason why John Harbaugh is really never their main scapegoat for the Ravens, playoff woes and things like that, because it's easy to point to a Mark Andrews dropping the ball, or Zay Flowers fumbling the ball at the goal line, Tyler Huntley fumbling, things like that, right? But again, man, I want to shoot Marcus Williams some bail here. It just didn't work out with the Ravens. It started out as a good relationship, and then it just kind of went sour when we switched up defensive coordinators. The whole coaching staff kind of got revamped over on that defensive side. It just is what it is, man. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and remember when we lost all these coaches, we lost
Yeah.
Mike McDonald. We lost
Hmm.
Denard Wilson. Like we talked about the coach we lost. Like we talked about how like Denard Wilson was kind of an underrated loss, and who knows, man? Like this could be a reason of it. It's not really a coincidence. He leaves and the secondary goes to trash because there was way too much talent in that secondary room last year. I thought even with what we had to be giving up that many yards, it just wasn't right. So hoping now that we made the right additions coaching wise and we have the talent. I think we have more than enough talent in the secondary to really make some noise and hold teams under 400 yards passing. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Exactly. Hopefully. I definitely do think that this Ravens defense is going to have to start strong and start fast this season in order for us to, have any chance at, 1 seed, which is something that I would like for the Ravens to have again. Obviously, only one team gets in the conference. So you got to win those early games, especially against, opponents like the Bills and the Chiefs that are also going to be jockeying for position of that 1 seed come playoff time as well. So unlike last year where the defense kind of had those growing pains like we talked about because of like the massive overhaul in the coaching department on the defensive side, can't afford that this year. Can't afford that. Cannot afford to start slow. I know we've got some tough games to begin. The Bills game is going to be a very tough one. Sunday Night Football, week 1. Oh, teams haven't really gotten into a rhythm yet, so it's really going to be a crapshoot, much like the week 1 game against the Kansas City Chiefs. I can see it coming down to the wire all over again. Hopefully the Ravens come out on top. But again, like you said, fingers crossed that our secondary not 400 and 500-yard games because that's just not going to be conducive to putting ourselves in the best position come playoff time.
Yeah, and then even week 2,
Yeah.
it's another trap game. I feel like we had the Raiders and Gardner Minshew last year. Now it's Joe Flacco and the Browns this year. I think we're kind of in agreement. He'll be the starting quarterback week 1 for them. I don't think they'll give it to Gabriel or Shador or Pickett. I think Joe's going to win it. So we'll be playing him week 2. Like
Yeah.
that to me, I'm looking at that game. Like that's a must-win game. It's your first division game. Like the Raider game was kind of stupid. We lost, but it wasn't division. This one now, you cannot lose your division games at home, especially to the Browns. So it's not easy. Then the Lions week 3, then the Chiefs week 4, who I don't think we talked about. They'll probably be missing Rashee Rice if we're being completely honest. He'll probably get a 6-game suspension.
Right.
So that's a little bit of a
Yeah.
advantage to us. But either way, going to Arrowhead and we haven't won there, I think, since the Reebok era. I think they've won like 9-7 there, or in the playoff game when Terrence Coney flattened their running back. I think that's the last time we beat him in Arrowhead.
Yeah, it's been a minute, and that definitely does need to get done. What do you say? Week 4, right? Is when we play the Chiefs,
Yep,
and is that game is prime time if I'm not mistaken, right?
4:25 CBS.
Okay.
Danton Romo.
Okay. Got it. Got it. That'll be a fun one. That'll be a very, very fun game for sure. Like you said, no Rashee Rice. It's going to be interesting to see what the Chiefs do offensively to kind of stay ahead of the bell curve, right? To really not find themselves in so many games where it's like one possession, because I feel like a lot of those games this year, especially coming off of a Super Bowl hangover a little bit, they might drop some of those games if they continue to let teams. I know they always find ways to win things like that, but this league it never lets any one team stay ahead for and on top for too long, right? I know dynasties do exist, but these are all professionals around the league. They're coming for the top spot each and every season, so it'll be interesting to see how the Chiefs respond to losing the Super Bowl. Of course, retool offensive line a little bit, but not necessarily adding any X factor type weapons, game changing like weapons, right? At least not my immediate knowledge, but we will see. We will see. Okay, so moving right along here. So next piece of news. This one's been kind of funny to me, to be honest with you. This one is about our good friends over in Cincinnati. That's right, the Bengals. They've got on right now. They've got a lot going on with their rookie Shamar Stewart, and I want to go ahead and pull it up on screen here. Alex, if you can go ahead and read that, it's a little bit small on my screen.
Yeah.
But this is a report from Ari Myrov. Take it away, Alex.
Bengals owner Mike Brown explained that the holdup in getting Shamar Stewart signed isn't about money, but rather about contract guarantees in extreme disciplinary scenarios. All right, what could they be? Stewart's agent is pushing for the deal to remain fully guaranteed even if Stewart were to commit a serious violation, something, hypothetically, as severe as going to prison. Brown noted that while he doesn't believe that will ever happen, it's the sticking point that's delaying the deal. That is
Okay.
surely the clause. That is,
It's something, isn't it?
yeah,
I just don't. For me, and here's the thing: when I kind of dug into this story a little bit, I did see a lot of people talking about how he's not necessarily asking Shamar Stewart. That is, he's not necessarily asking for something that hasn't been put in everybody else's contract before, right? Um, but my thing is, and I think was it the Bengals general manager, their owner, Mike Brown,
yeah,
came out earlier today. Well, there was some sort of presser, and he was basically saying in so many words, like, yeah, I mean, like if a guy is sitting in prison, I don't feel like I have to. So, like, yeah, we're putting that into these contracts now, and I think that with the salary cap only getting higher and higher and higher, and players only coming out as more entitled and more entitled due to like NIL money. So they're already rich before they even get to the league. So by the time they get to the league, they have the leverage to kind of, bully, right, the owners in a way to where they're saying like, hey, look, like, no, we're not good for what we were doing the past 30, 40, 50 years. Like, there's more money already on the table, like for me, like, so I have options, so I have leverage. But that's what all this is leading up to. But my thing is, though, why does it have to be such an extreme? I don't know
right.
if the whole prison thing, you know what I mean? Like if he's sitting in jail, you know what I mean? Like, how hard is it? How hard is it if you are making millions of dollars? I'll never be able to wrap my mind around it, Alex. Like, how hard is it to just sit down somewhere and not get in any trouble while you're not playing football?
Yeah, and that's, I don't know, man. I don't get it. Um, I pray I can have the type of money that these guys see. I really do. I probably go at night, praying I'll be blessed with that money. I like every tweet that says, money's coming your way. But
Yeah.
to have that, like, getting money does not make you make bad decisions, and you see it. And one of my favorite players, I think, was Henry Ruggs. And what he did, Derek Carr said, I will pick you up. Didn't take that offer. I don't know if you're just that young, you think you're invincible. We've all been there. Um, I don't know, man. I would love to be in that position where you have that money, but I just feel you can make really just much better decisions. I don't know even how to really say it because I can't wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, and I think you do have a point there where, like, I guess some of these young athletes who obviously they haven't even hit 25 yet, so their brains haven't even fully developed. Right? Like,
Yeah,
like prefrontal cortex doesn't even finish developing until you're like 25 or 26 years old for a male. And like they're getting so much money at such a young age, I think it just gives them this kind of warped sense of reality to
yeah,
where like, okay, I've got enough money to where consequences really don't exist. Right. So I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna live it up, I'm gonna do what I want, I'm gonna, splurge, I think that's what it is. It still doesn't make sense to me. But I can kind of understand the mindset of, these young rookies coming into the league. 'Cause, I mean, these are what, 19, 20, 21 years old, with millions of dollars on the table and just like literally life-changing money on the horizon for them. So I don't know, man. It's definitely it's sad to see those situations when they happen, right? But something like this for a guy to be basically bargaining for, hey, like if I ever get into any massive trouble, not saying it's gonna happen, wink wink, nudge nudge, but like I still want all my guaranteed money. It's like, bro, if this is the thing that's stopping you from fulfilling your life's dream, like sometimes I mean I question, I think it's a question like, do you really love the sport that much? You know what I mean? Like if you're not
yeah.
willing to, you know what I mean, Alex? Does that make any
I get
sense?
it. No, it makes sense. Like, I feel like you work your ass off, and you
Yeah.
put in all this grinding, and now you're here living out your childhood dream, and just do something stupid. I think even after the fact, I look at Darren Sharper, one of the hardest hitting safeties. He's in jail, I think, for the rest of his life.
Mm.
Played a great career. You can ride out in the sunset, and you make a very stupid decision, and now it's impact your life for the rest of it. All this money to spend, you can go anywhere you want. Stuck in, I don't know, man. I don't get it.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense, man. Let me see. Dre says he's probably banking on getting ready draft the following season. Well, yeah, there's been talks about, he's got options to come out in next year's draft, right? Like he can. I think he's been training at his college, and they're not putting it past him that he might forego this season, and just kind of train and get stronger and more athletic or whatever, and just come back and try to get redrafted next season. But my thing is, like, if you already set this type of like precedent for yourself, as a player, like, I always say it, like, the NFL is a good old boy club, right? These owners, as much as we talk about they collude, maybe they don't collude, they talk, you know what I mean? And like, they share a lot of the same values. And if they see you giving a hard time to, one of the other owners for something like this, it's like, I don't know. But I guess Alex, the narrative and the conversation around these young athletes are changing right before our eyes, and maybe that's the conversation that we need to be having, because like I said, they're coming into these situations, they're coming to the table with so much more leverage now. Like, already have money. They already have money. They already have brand deals, sponsorships, things like that. So they're not these starving kids who have to come in and like, sir, no, sir. I'll do whatever you need to do. Like, I'll sign whatever. Like, this deal sounds great to me, sir. Yes, sir. Like, they don't have to do that. They don't have to bend the knee, basically. And I don't know how far this is gonna go. I mean, it's already been a record for second round picks getting guaranteed contracts this season. So I don't know what the ceiling for this looks like. I know the next collective bargaining agreement meeting doesn't happen until like 2030, but
Yeah.
we are on a very interesting trajectory when it comes to these young rookies in the NFL.
Yeah, man, I remember the days when Sam Bradford was getting like 30 mil being drafted first overall. And now it's, different, the guarantees aren't there. So you can be drafted in top 10, play good your first year and get hurt the next 3, and you're getting a vet minimum after that. So it's tough to see. I even think I see now reports they'll say like so and so team, let's just go, the Cardinals have signed former first round pick to a vet minimum, and it's like his 5th year. I'm just like, wow, like, I forgot about him. So it's like you see why they want to get their money, because your career can change so quick. But you said 2030 is next collective bargaining, or 2031.
Yeah,
So I'll be interested to see what goes
yeah,
down there.
yeah, definitely will. I have a very strong feeling, and that's another thing too. There's been a lot of news. I know this doesn't make like this is not anything super duper juicy unless you're into that side of the NFL. But the NFL Players Association recently had a couple of
Oh,
people step down. Yeah, and like that was looking a little weird. I clicked into it a little bit. I couldn't really find anything concrete on exactly why or maybe what's going on behind the scenes. But have you heard anything about that?
yeah. I think like the main guy was like using the money at the strip club and like getting escorts, and
That's insane.
that's what started all of this, allegedly.
That is, oh my
But he
gosh,
did step
that is
down.
insane.
So once again, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely right. And wow, I did not hear about that. I did not know about that at all. Uh,
It's a rabbit
but hey,
hole.
man, I guess you can't put things past anybody. But it is. But Dre says, "Damn" in the chat. I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy stuff. I wasn't prepared for that one. I'm not gonna lie. But okay, let's go ahead and move right along here to our next subject of the episode, which is gonna be we're gonna shift gears from one AFC North opponent to another AFC North opponent, who recently had some new jerseys come out. And listen, man, I'm just gonna say it right here. I'm not the biggest fan. Let me go ahead and put it on the screen for you guys. So, as you
Yeah.
see here, that's the helmet for it. But let me show you the actual jersey. The helmet I don't really have a big problem with. I
No.
don't. But the jersey, this is what we're looking at here. This is the Steelers' alternate jersey that they're going to wear, I think, week 8 against the Packers on Sunday Night Football or something like that. You see people clowning it in the comment section to the right hand of the screen. But Alex, what are your thoughts on this Steelers alternate uni?
It's kind of like you create your own team and you're like a Steeler fan, but you don't want to copy their exact uniform, so you kind of switch it up. You use
Mm,
black and yellow, and then you just throw some weird like
yeah.
design on it, and that's what I feel like it is. It looks as like some like Madden generated franchise mode team that you made your own team, and this is what you picked. Um, the pants, I'm not really feeling
That's a
with
good way
it.
to put it. Yeah.
They could have went with black pants. I feel like that would have been a lot better. But
Oh,
I'm just
yes.
not. It's like what there's just certain outfits. Let's say you're wearing an outfit and you have like a dark khaki on and then a light khaki on. It's not gonna look good. It's not gonna look good. You gotta just wear a different shirt with the pants, or wear different color pants. I'm not feeling it.
Yeah. The pants is really, so it's two things for me. It's the pants. I don't like the gold pants. I would have much rather them be black. I agree with you there 100%. But then also just kind of like this stripe design on the jersey. So you can see like underneath the numbers, there's like these black stripes, and it almost kind of reminds you of the Bumblebee alternate jersey from years ago. Even though those bars weren't vertical, they were horizontal, and they're going all the way across the jersey. But this just kind of feels like clunky and out of place where they put those black bars like right in the middle. They don't go all the way around the jersey, I don't think, and they just kind of stop right at the side of the torso. I hate it. I hate it a lot. And then you pair them up with those gold pants. Like I said, I mean, it's just atrocious. They could have maybe wrap those black bars all the way around the uniform, all the way around the jersey, made the pants black. That would have made this uniform a lot cooler, in my opinion. Like I said, I don't have any problem with the helmet. I think the helmet is fire. Very basic helmet, not anything too risky there either, but it still looks good. But the rest of the uniform is just, man, I wouldn't be. I'm not counting down the days to see that one if I'm a Steelers fan.
No, not at all. I'm not feeling it there. Like the pants, you know, it's like when we had our gold pants. You're trying to go for it, just doesn't fit that much. Now, to bring this back to the Ravens, I do want to say I'm a little annoyed with the Ravens because they're posting these pictures from like their little photo shoot where they had like the old school retro room, which are
Right.
unbelievably hard. Please do not put the old retro logo if we cannot use it. I'm getting frustrated because I would love for us to have a retro theme. It's never going to happen, but I see it in these photos. I'm just like, don't tease me. Don't show me something when I know I can't have it. Don't do that to me.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I agree there too. The Ravens, I think the most recent one I saw was the Kyle Hamilton one. Fire photo shoot. I love the
Oh my gosh.
concept, love the idea. But again, like it's just like it's it's kind of like the black jerseys, the black practice jerseys. Like,
Mm,
why show us something if we can't actually have it? You know what I mean? Like that's
agreed.
what really pisses me off. So I agree with you there. I totally
Like
agree.
the black practice jerseys. I mean, they don't get much better than that. Imagine that in all black.
No.
I mean, unbelievable. Man.
Yeah. Would be unbelievable. Absolutely insane. But yeah, for me, it's a maybe a 1 out of 10 on
Yeah.
this uniform combo here from the Steelers. I can't really give it much more than that. Salute to Steelers fans out there who think that this is fire, but I absolutely do not. Um, but yeah, what else you got for me,
It's
Alex?
it's not the worst in the league. I think the worst was the Giants last year. That throwback with like the red and the blue, and then they had like those same
Yeah,
pants. I don't think it's as bad as
those are
that.
nasty. Yeah.
I think that's the worst combo in the league. And I love me some good ugly uniforms. But that, if we're talking about good uniforms, real quick, you saw the Buccaneers preview
Talk
last
about
week.
it.
Those creamsicle all whites might be one of the best
Oh yeah, I
uniforms in the
did see
league.
those.
Yeah, the all whites.
Not better than the Chargers, man.
Oh, the Chargers. That if we're talking a team like I think the combo, I think Chargers like one for me because you have so many ways you can mix and match it. I'm not a big fan of the all gold, but
Yeah,
the all navy, the powder blues. Oh,
yeah.
I love it.
That navy and bright bolt yellow, like that combination right there is just so elite. Like you said, you can do whatever you want with it. Of course, they mix in the white. Of course, they throw in the powder blue. Those go crazy as well. I mean, they just got it made there with the color scheme. They can really
Mm,
do whatever. And then the logo is so sleek too. It's just that bolt. You know what I mean? It kind of
yeah.
works with any and everything that you want to do with it. It's perfect for the helmet. Yeah. Shout out to the designers who are cooking up the Chargers jerseys. Shout out to them
Yeah.
for sure. Um, but yeah, I think that was our last topic of today's show. Like I said, slow news.
Oh, there goes Sutton. Well, yeah, not much news going on there today. Just the Marcus Williams calling out the Ravens. Then you had the Shamar Stewart incidents, and then with the Steelers uniform. So, um, unfortunately, that's all we have for you today. Going 40 minutes here, so don't know if Sutton will be coming back. I hope so because we can end this. But thank you for coming through to this episode. Um, don't know if he'll be back. Don't know. But all right, well, I'm gonna end it here. Thank you for coming through this episode of Purple Rain Podcast, episode 322. We love you. We appreciate you. And as always, stay positive, test negative. And since Sutton's not here, I'll do it. Call God. Peace.